whose coaches may not have that half full glass where you're kind of looking at them like, what exactly are we doing here? And that would be, what coaches do we think, if they have a bad offseason, if they have a bad 2024 season, who is on the hot seat and who do you see is just burning every time they sit down in that chair and have to talk to the owner and explain themselves and their mistakes that they've made?
Well, I think a big one, because we think he should have gotten fired anyways. Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy lied during his interview process, gets hired, admits that he lied, and then makes the playoffs, wins a playoff game last year, loses in embarrassing fashion, and then this time around faces his former team, a team that let him go, picked Aaron Rodgers over him, and he gets annihilated with one of the top defenses in the league, allegedly giving up 48 points. So they go into another season with all those questions that we had mentioned with their salary cap, with the players they have to pay. They're going to still be able to perform. They're still going to be in the mix. If they go out there and they embarrass themselves again, Mike McCarthy already should have been gone, but at this point, he has to be gone. And then at that point, they look to a Mike Vrabel, they look to a Bill Belichick, or maybe they look to a Bobby Slowick. But they need to do something, because if he fail again, Cowboys, they got to break the curse somehow.
Yeah, Cowboys have to break the curse somehow, and it's definitely coming in, bringing a young offensive-minded head coach, and then also not having Dak Prescott as your quarterback, and that's going to be the way to get over the hump, because you can't pay a mediocre quarterback top dollar money, which Dak Prescott demands in the modern day NFL. So I think that is a definitely a good shout out, especially Mike McCarthy. It's just, how hot is his seat really with Jerry Jones? Because we saw Jason Garrett and how long he stayed there. And honestly, when he brought back Mike McCarthy, it made me question Jerry Jones' motivation to actually win and how much he just likes being in the news, making the money. He's already had his VHS tape Super Bowl. So, like, how much desire does Jerry Jones actually have to win was a question I had when they brought back Mike McCarthy. Because if it was to win, you wouldn't have brought him back.
Yeah, I
But
completely agree.
and then another coach, I don't necessarily know how hot his seat will be, because everyone in the media loves him. Everyone picked the Bills to blow out the Chiefs. But what are we doing with Sean McDermott? I know he is a good NFL head coach, but he hasn't been the head coach that has been able to get them over the hump versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They had that lull in the middle of the regular season, and Josh Allen put the team on his back and was able to bring them out of the shadows and into the number 2 seed. And Sean McDermott, when it comes down to it, in big games, when you have the best defense in the league, you let the Chiefs score on you within 13 seconds. When you have one of the top 5 defenses in the league, you're at home versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and they destroy you in an environment where they shouldn't have. And then this time around, you call one of the dumbest play calls I have ever seen in a playoff game with that fake punt, and you still couldn't beat the Chiefs at home, where some people were dumb enough to pick you to blow out the Chiefs. And it's like, okay, how many years are we going to keep bumping our head in the divisional round? And then you got blown out in the conference championship, and we've got worse every year since then.
Yeah, we've been saying this for the last several weeks now. It's like there's a certain point, and I think that honestly, Kyle Shanahan, another conversation, I think he might be reaching his ceiling as well, but he made a Super Bowl, whatever. The Bills, I think that this is a team that seems like they've reached their ceiling with Sean McDermott, and just that team as a whole. There are plenty of opportunities the last several years where I think they were the better team on paper. Whether it was that Chiefs team with Tyreek Hill, you could argue who was the better team there on paper. Against the Bengals, I think they were a better team on paper. And this year, they should have been the better team against the Chiefs this year on paper as well. So it's not like they don't have the talent. It's, does Sean McDermott have the ability to elevate them to another level that they haven't reached yet? And I think that certain times, whether it's like the Mark Jackson, maybe he's the Mark Jackson of this team and they'll find their Steve Kerr. But I think that till then, if they have another opportunity and they blow it, then you have to let him go. You have to find that other guy.
Yeah, it has to be Mike Vrabel. I think I see him on the Buffalo Bills sideline next year. But yeah, Sean McDermott is someone I've been like, okay, what exactly do you do here? What are we doing here? And it's time to, if we lose in the divisional round again next year or in the wild card round, it's time to go, and it's time for a new face. And it's not necessarily anything wrong with Sean McDermott. It's just you haven't been able to get us over the hump versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they're just not going away there. Another mention I have here, and if I was an owner with the amount of money to own an NFL team, so hypothetically I have lots of access to copious amounts of cocaine, after the way they finished last season, I would have been throwing chairs, smashing things in my office, screaming at this coach with what the fuck actually was that? How did we fall so far off of a cliff where we could have been the number 1 seed out of the playoffs? Doug Peterson, you got one more year. You're going to have a tough assignment with the Houston Texans, who are probably going to be better than you. And CJ Stroud looks like he's going to be better than Trevor Lawrence and most quarterbacks not named Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. Then you have Shane Steichen, who looks like he's a lot smarter and has a better offensive mind than you do, where he came in there and almost made the playoffs with the Colts this year. What the hell was that last year in Jacksonville? We should have been in the Super Bowl. We had the roster to do it. You couldn't put the defense together. You couldn't put the offense together. We took a gamble on Calvin Ridley. You're the one who's supposed to come in here and automatically elevate Trevor Lawrence to MVP. If we have another so-so subpar, this is a very unexciting, play it safe team. No, Trevor Lawrence should not be a check down guy. Like, it's time to show out or just get out if you're Doug Peterson.
Yeah,
It's time.
it's still a mystery to me. One of the great mysteries of the world, up there with the pyramids. Where in the world happened to the Jaguars? Because they were at the top of the world. They were 7-4. They were competing with the Ravens for that 1 seed, and then they forgot how to play football. And it was because Christian Kirk got hurt. Christian Kirk, by the way, this is a guy that we put in the same conversation as like a Cortland Sutton, or someone of that, maybe a Brandon Cooks at this point in his career level player. It should not, maybe you take a step back offensively, but it should not be the fall of the Roman Empire
No.
with losing Christian Kirk, especially when you have Evan Ingram, whose career improved in Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley, who has been a one elsewhere, with Trevor Lawrence, the prince who was promised. What's going on here? Because it's insane to me that they fell off as hard as they did and how pathetically they did. Because down the stretch, they looked bad at certain points. And you also have Travis Etienne. And so I think that that's an obvious pick there as well.